He was violent during any of them?
No.
Verbally abusive?
No.
Well, then why do you suppose she was upset?
Because he was persistent.
Persistent about what?
He kept on saying that she shouldn't marry me.
Tell me, Mr. Carothers, did you love your wife?
Of course I loved my wife.
You think she loved you?
Yes.
Was she considered a political asset to your campaign?
I wouldn't know about such things.
Really? You read the Kingsley Chronicle?
Yes.
Editorial page?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to reacquaint you with the editorial page of this one, September 26th. Heading over this editorial reads, Kate Phillips casts her ballot. Particular passage I'm interested in here. The whole thing, of course, is about the announcement of your engagement. But this says, in a campaign where it is increasingly hard to find any substantial difference between the candidates, it is clear that the alliance of Kate Phillips with Lee Carothers is a decisive one. Voters are keenly aware that a yes for Carothers would mean 2 representatives in Washington for the price of 1. Kate Phillips' record is no secret. Without ever holding political office herself, she has done more good for this state than any 5 politicians that readily spring to mind. A fact Mr. Carothers could hardly ignore as he slipped the engagement ring upon her finger. So 3 cheers for the strange bedfellows politics makes. This congressional race has already been decided. Now, honestly, Mr. Carothers, are you telling us that you didn't have any idea that your marriage would have political ramifications?
I am telling you, Mr. Webster, that I was very aware of how well Kate was respected. But I did not assume that that would be translated into votes at the ballot box. To do so would be incredibly naive of me politically.
Well, I think you are being naive. See, I can cite opinion polls, newspaper columnists, TV commentators, your own opponent, and the voters who would certainly subscribe to the theory that the announcement of that engagement was a turning point in the campaign.
Your Honor, if Mr. Webster is trying to make a point here, I wish you'd encourage him to do it. I find all of this totally irrelevant.
What is it you're trying to say, Mr.
Only this, Your Honor. That my client, the defendant, may have had very good reason for not wanting his ex-wife to remarry. He may have thought she was being used. What I want to hear from Mr. Carothers is if he ever heard any comments of that nature from the deceased.
Did you, sir?
No, Your Honor, I did not, very definitely. And I find this line of questioning...
What you find this line of questioning, you may keep to yourself.
Order.
Now, tell us about your honeymoon. I understand it kind of got off to a rocky start.
I suppose you're referring to the fact that we left the reception early?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm referring to. Why?
Well, some guest made a very disturbing remark to Kate. But rather than causing a scene, I decided we ought to gracefully exit.
Well, can you tell us what was said and who said it?
Well, the gist of it was very close and almost the same as the wrongful insinuations here, Mr. Webster, but as to who said it, I'm afraid I don't remember.
I'm sure you are afraid to remember. Maybe if I do a little research, I can come up with a name. Where'd you go after you left the reception?
Well, Kate and I had reservations at the resort hotel at Avalon Springs.
Reservations? That means that's where you stayed?
Yes, that's what it means.
Now, I'm not sure I understand exactly. You are telling us that you and your wife left her lodge and drove to Avalon Springs and registered at that hotel.
Yes.
Mr. Carothers, tell us, if you will, please, about the night of the murder. Why did your wife choose to stay at her daughter Amber's?
I don't know. I've been asked that question several times, and the only reasonable explanation that I can come up with is that she just didn't want to be alone. I mean, it's not a very satisfactory answer, but it's the best I can offer.
And she was going to be alone, why? Because you had a political commitment that you couldn't get out of?
That's right. A news conference and a meeting with the farmers in Perryville.
Which meant that you had to stay the night in that town.
At the Golden Inn, to be exact.
What time did you leave Kingsley for Perryville?
Well, let's see. I was in the office all evening preparing the speech. By the time it was reasonably shaped up, it was about 11 or 11:15. That means that I left about 11:30.
11:30. And you got there at what time?
1 a.m.
Hour and a half. To drive a distance of less than 40 miles.
I stopped and had a cup of coffee along the way.
I see. Well, what did you do when you got there?
I went to bed immediately because this meeting and news conference was scheduled for 4 a.m. in the morning, and I wanted to get as much sleep as I could.
Were you on time for it?
Yes.
Let me ask you this question. Suppose you'd forgotten something back in Kingsley, something was real important, something you needed notes for your speech, say. Would you have had time to get all the way back to Kingsley and pick up whatever it was and then come back to Perryville and still be there in time for that meeting?
Objection, Your Honor. The answer to that question has no bearing on this case.
I disagree, Mr. Lockwood. Now, I think defense is trying to establish that the witness might have had some unaccounted for time during the night of the murder. Now, I'm interested in his answer.
I think that the defense is making an accusation.
He is asking a question, Mr. Lockwood. Overruled. Would you have had time for such a trip, sir?
Well, of course, Your Honor. It's only a 40-minute drive.
Thank you. Your Honor, I don't have any more questions from this witness, but I would like to reserve the right to recall him later if necessary.
Very well.
Thank you.
Mr. Lockwood, do you wish to redirect?
Yes, I have one more question, Your Honor, and I resent having to ask it. Congressman Carothers, did you leave your hotel room that night?
No, I did not.
Thank you.
I know this must be pretty rough for you, but I want you to know I really feel that everything is going to be all right. Alicia's going to be fine.
I appreciate your optimism, but I still haven't stopped praying for her.
Yeah. You know, I was just kind of wondering that, if maybe if we prayed together.
Honey, you've never asked to pray with me in your entire life.
I know. Well, I keep thinking about that Bible verse that Mom's always quoting. If two of you shall agree on anything.
As touching anything that she shall ask, and it shall be done for them, of my Father which is in heaven.
Yeah. Well, I can agree with you that God would heal Alicia from whatever's ailing her.
The witness may step down. We will adjourn for lunch until 2 p.m.
All rise.
That woman back there is Andrea Summers. We got to get to her before Carothers does. Just a minute, Andrea.
Get your hands off me.
What are you doing here?
Can't figure it out, Lee.
You're going quietly with us right now. Or else. Or else what, Mr. Knight? No, excuse me, please. Excuse me, I want to introduce myself to you. My name's, Harold Webster. I'm an attorney, and looks to me like you could use an attorney about now. May I offer you my services?
Yes, Mr. Webster. Thank you.
Gentlemen, please excuse us.
Well, that's it. It's not it. We've come this far. We're not going to be stopped now by some little tramp.
I think we are just witnessing the beginning of the end here. I've just perjured myself, Sebastian. He knows that Kate and I were never at Avalon Springs, and now with Andrea here, he knows why.
Look, there are ways around all of this.
Oh, no.
Yes. Now, you've played the fool long enough for one day. You're going to listen to me. Let's get out of here.
At Leon's Diner, the night Kate was murdered.
Yes. I'm not surprised you don't remember. You were really
He had
out
an
of it.
allergic reaction to some medication he'd taken.
That whole night's a blank.
No, not anymore. Not now, it isn't. Now, Miss Summers, there really isn't any delicate way to bring up this subject, but our information suggests that you and Carothers
We're having an affair. Yes, it is true. And I can prove that almost everything he said up there on the witness stand today is a lie.
Oh, Dave, we can do good news for you.
Just say it, Alex. We're prepared for the worst.
Well, she's past the critical point. She's going to be all right.
Thank you, Jesus.
Her respiration's back to normal, as are her other vital signs.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much.
Oh, I think your original thanks are much more appropriate, though.
Oh, but can we see her?
Yes, we'd love to see her.
Well, that's another reason I came out. I think the best thing for Alicia right now would be to have her parents by her side. You know, it was really amazing. Just a little while ago, she gave this tremendous cough.
Yeah.
And then her breathing became more normal. Yeah, come on.
If the two of you shall agree.